walkie-talkies. I hear screaming from the manager. No one really ever got really mad at me for that, besides the managers. But the customers didn't really get mad at me. Worth my $200. Because I think she was still thinking that he was on the phone. So now she's screaming at me. Needless to say, I stayed back there. I stayed hiding in the bike section. Maybe because I didn't really care about the job at all. Like, let's be honest. I didn't care if I got fired. So I didn't defend myself. I found no point in defending myself. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be kind of like a story time, but mini stories of all of the worst work experiences I've ever had and just the most cringy, awkward things that have ever happened to me at work. And just because my life is just very interesting, I have a list. I have 16 mini stories of awkward things and extremely just painful experiences at work. And I also asked you guys about what story I should make next on my channel, either the story time of the worst beach day ever or the worst job ever. I think like 94% of you guys voted for worst job ever. So when I was 18 to 19, I worked at a toy store. And I'm not gonna say the name of the toy store, but there's really like only one toy store that is well known. That is a department store. So everyone can pretty much infer what store I'm talking about. And a hint, they no longer exist. They went bankrupt with good reason. No shade, but shade. So one day at the store, I had to work on Christmas Eve and it was nighttime. And at this job, we had to do this thing called reshop when you brought the toys from behind the register. Like when people bring it up to the front and they don't want to buy it and they just ask you to put it behind the register. So all those toys like get piled up throughout the day behind the register. So then you have to put it in a cart and bring it and put it back on the shelves where it's supposed to go. So they told me to do that on Christmas Eve night. And as I'm in the aisle, putting the stuff back, minding my own business, then this customer runs up to me. He asked me, "Do you guys sell basketball hoops?" And I was so bad at this job. I didn't know anything about the inventory. I was just faking it till I made it. I did not know if we sell basketball hoops. And probably the reason why I didn't really know anything is because I was a cashier. So I just stayed at the front of the store all the time. And I didn't really walk around like the huge department store at all. So I really didn't know like what we actually had in the store. I was literally just bringing people up. But before I can like go on my walkie-talkie and like ask another coworker if we have basketball hoops, he puts his phone on my ear and says, "Here, it's my wife, talk to her." He could tell that I was going to say, "I don't think we have basketball hoops." And he's trying to get a basketball hoop for his kids for Christmas, which is the next day. He is going to be in big trouble if I don't give him this basketball hoop. So he literally puts me on the phone with his wife. And then she's just screaming on the phone because I think she was still thinking that he was on the phone. So now she's screaming at me. And I am just like so, like I had no idea what to do in this situation. I'm like extremely shy. So I'm just on the phone with someone screaming at me. And I'm literally not even saying anything. Wait, this is kind of bad. I don't even remember what happened after that. Did I just black out? I literally don't remember. I think he just took the phone back and then I used the walkie-talkie, asked if we have basketball hoops. We literally only had like those little Tykes basketball hoops. Not like the big, he wanted like the actual big basketball hoop that you put in your driveway, like on the pavement. But we just had those little like baby basketball hoops. So I'm sorry to this man, but we didn't give him his Christmas gift. I just felt so pressured in that moment, being screamed at on the phone when all I'm trying to do is put a toy back on the shelf. And another really awkward thing, wasn't really experience, but at the toy job, when I got hired, they ran out of small shirts, like the uniform. So the only option for me to have was an extra large. All these awkward experiences, just imagine me in an extra large shirt. It was just so embarrassing. And it's like a t-shirt with the logo of the store on it. So I just had this huge shirt on. And then the dress code was like black shoes, black pants, and then the shirt. So I had this huge t-shirt and like black dress pants on and black sneakers. It was not a look. And the next most awkward experience is that when I was a cashier at this job, I would always forget to give people their change back when I rang them up. So they would buy like $300 worth of toys and give me like $500. They would literally have like $200 in change. And then I'll just close the register and be like, "Okay, bye." And not even give them the change back. And they're like, "Where's my $200? No one really ever got really mad at me for that, besides the managers. But the customers didn't really get mad at me because they could tell that didn't really know what I was doing. Just a dumb teenager. Yeah, I literally just didn't even give them back $100. And then I would have to call over the manager, and they'll get really mad, and then they would have to open the register with the key, and I already like X'd out the transaction on the screen, so then it's like all confusing, like what change to give them back. And then they had to like pull up the transaction to tell me what change to give them. It was just a whole mess. So if you're a cashier and you don't know what you're doing, just remember to give them back the change. And now the third most awkward experience is when I was a chemistry tutor at my college. Then basically all I did was, like, after my classes ended, for like 1 or 2 hours at the end of the day, then the chemistry students could go online and book an appointment with me for me to help them with their chemistry homework or like studying for tests or something. So the only problem with that is that every single time I had a student sign up for me that hadn't ever signed up for me before, like they were just meeting me for the first time, every single time they first met me, then they would always think that I didn't know what I was talking about. And they would always think that I had no idea about chemistry and I'm just like scamming them or something. But the way that their homework was set up, it was like online homework, and then as soon as you submit your answer, it tells you if you're wrong or right. So I would have to like help them get the right answer like 3, 4, 5 times before they would actually trust me and actually think I knew what I was talking about. Like the pressure was on because like it was organic chemistry. Organic chemistry is extremely difficult. So now the pressure's on for you to actually be getting these answers right to help them. It was just a very stressful time. Like organic chemistry is hard enough, but then you have to worry about your reputation. And the next most awkward thing is that no matter what job I'm at, whenever a customer has an accent, like a British accent or what other accents would they have? A Southern accent. Mostly just with British accents and Southern accents, I don't know why, but whenever someone speaks to me in those accents, I accidentally respond in the same accent that they were speaking to me in. And then it just gets really awkward because I don't want them to think I'm like making fun of them, but my brain just like tricks me into speaking an accent back to them. So that has happened to me a couple times. And the next one is at the same toy store job I was originally talking about. So I literally think about this story so often, and I don't know why. But one time, the receipt paper ran out in my register, and I asked the manager at the service desk for a new roll of receipt paper. And then I put it in to the receipt thing on the register because I know how to do that at my other job. But this register at this job was different. So I thought I was doing it right, but apparently I wasn't. And then I kept ringing people up and taking customers, but then none of the receipts were printing. It was just like coming out blank. And then I'm just like too scared to ask the manager how to fix it. And then I eventually work up the courage and go and ask her. And then she walks over and then she just slowly opens it up, takes it, flips it upside down, puts it back, closes it, prints a receipt, and it's fine. And that, I don't know why, but that was just like so embarrassing. Like, I'm just, and she goes, you know what? You're really like a blonde. And I was like, thanks. And the next one was literally probably the most cringy thing that happened at the toy store job. Okay, so when people put items on layaway, then basically they just bring all the stuff to the register and say, I'm gonna buy this later. Or they order it online and like the employees have to put it all at the front and then you come and pick it up. But basically you just have all these toys that you're going to pay for later and you can like put the order together ahead of time. So when I explained the reshop thing, then they told me to do reshop. And when you do reshop, sometimes there's a bunch of carriages of toys at the front of the store. And then you just push them around and put them back on the shelves. So there was one carriage at the front and I noticed that all of the toys had sticky notes on them. And I was like, wow, that's kind of weird that those toys have sticky notes on them. So I just bring the carriage to the aisles, take the sticky notes off, put all the toys back on the shelf. And then about 10 minutes later, I'm back in the bike section. Like, you know, in like Walmart and stuff and like Target and like a Kmart, a bunch of different stores, the bike section is way in like the back corner of the store. So I'm way in the back corner of the store, hiding, because over the walkie-talkies, everyone has a walkie-talkie on their hip. Over the walkie-talkies, I hear screaming from the manager, "Where's the layaway toy? Where's the carriage of toys that I had at the front of the store?" Needless to say, I stayed back there. I stayed hiding in the bike section. I pushed the cart slowly away from me to... How did I not get fired from this job? I pushed the cart away from me to get rid of the evidence. I stood back in the bike section, and I waited a couple minutes for everything to cool down. And as I try to make my way to the front of the store, I see the manager who yelled over the walkie-talkies running throughout the store, grabbing all the stuff that I just put back on the shelves and putting it into her cart, and running back up to the front to give the lady what she put on layaway. That was embarrassing. And the managers never yelled at me. They never brought it up again. They definitely probably knew it was me because I was the only person doing the reshop. But they just never got mad at me and never called me out for hiding in the bikes and never fired me. And I did quit this job, but that's a whole nother video. It's just so interesting how I actually had the choice to quit and not get fired. And then another time, again, I was doing the reshop, and it was just very cringy because I was so shy at this job that the first couple of weeks that I worked at the job, like I said, everyone had to have a walkie-talkie on their hip the whole time they're working. But the first couple of times I worked, I was like, I knew that everyone had a walkie-talkie, but no one ever like told me that I had to get it or like where to get it from. So I just didn't have a walkie-talkie for like 2 weeks that I worked there. But like, you have to have a walkie-talkie because if you go somewhere else in the store, you have to have it so that they can call you back to the front or like ask where you are or something. So I literally just didn't have a walkie-talkie. I was just like lost in the store. No one knew what I was doing. No one ever knew where I was for like 2 weeks. And then one day, and by the way you're supposed to get the walkie-talkie is that there's like a closet of walkie-talkies when you first walk in, and then at the beginning of the shift you're supposed to like sign one out in the sign out sheet and get it. But when I still didn't have the walkie-talkie, I was doing the reshop back in the back of the store, and then I finish putting all the toys back and I come up to the front and everyone is just standing at the service desk waiting to go home. Like, they all have their stuff, and I walk up there and then they're like all just staring at me walking up. Like, they're literally just all staring at me smiling, and I'm like, okay. And then they're like, "Oh, we just wanted to make sure you were still alive. Like, we didn't even know if you're still breathing because we haven't heard from you in like an hour." And then they're like, "Wait, do you have a walkie-talkie?" And I was like, well, about that, no. And then I got called out, and then I had to have a walkie-talkie from then on, and that was just really embarrassing because they literally thought I like left the store or something, or like died, passed out. But really, I was just too shy to get a walkie-talkie, so no one ever knew where I was. And then the next one is that at this job, at the toy store job, we had to sell credit cards to the customers, and like we had to try to sell as many credit cards as possible. And I'm pretty sure we also had just regular rewards cards that we also had to try to sell to the customers. But basically, if you didn't sell enough credit cards in a week, then they would like get mad at you and tell you you have to try way harder to sell the credit cards. So I actually sold a lot of credit cards. I don't really know why. I think that because one time one of the customers actually asked me like if I get commission for the credit cards, and I said no. But I think a lot of the customers thought that I did get commission, so they just like if you're at the register, you're like making friends with the customers, and they're like, "Oh, let me give her some commission. Sure, I'll sign up." So I think that was happening, but I actually wasn't getting any commission. And then I was actually selling a lot of credit cards. But then in the back, in the break room, there was like this paper at the end of every week that said how many credit cards each person sold. Every time I would look at the paper, it would always say that I had like no credit card sales, and I would be at like the bottom tier, and then I would be like, it was just embarrassing because it's like, oh, she can't sell any credit cards, and it's all plastered all over the break room. But then I actually was selling a lot of credit cards. So then there was something fishy going on there. Someone was forging my credit card sales as theirs. But so I knew, I was like, whatever. They're just, maybe the managers are just saying that their credit card sales or my credit card sales are theirs so that they don't get in trouble because their reputation is more important than mine because I'm just a cashier and they're a manager. But then one time I was bringing people up, and then one of the bosses comes over, and she's actually the one who hired me. And she was always really nice to me at the beginning, but then over time she started like resenting me. I don't know what I did to her, but she just started hating me over time. But she comes up to me and then she's like, "Felicia, I need to talk to you." I'm like, "Oh yeah." And she's like, "You haven't been selling any credit cards. it's just, you have to try so much harder to sell the credit cards. Like, do you think it's hard to sell the credit cards? Like, do you need me to help teach you how to sell the credit cards? And then I was like, eh. And because I knew that something was like weird happening with them not writing how many credit cards I had, instead of saying like I actually sold more credit cards than it says on the paper, I just went along with it. I don't know why I did this. I actually do things like that a lot. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't really care about the job at all. Like, let's be honest, I didn't care if I got fired, so I didn't defend myself. I found no point in defending myself. I was like, yeah, so bad at selling credit cards. Yeah, keep going. Yep, keep yelling at me. Sure. And then, but the way she was saying it, it was like she was kind of like, she wanted me to say like I sold more credit cards. Like, it's hard to explain, but it was like, that's another reason why I didn't defend myself, because it was like I had a feeling that she was like baiting me to defend myself, and then she was gonna say that I was lying or like I'm making it up and no one's forging the credit card sales. So I just stayed out of it. I was like, I just took the criticism, and I was like, yep, I'll try to sell my credit cards. Yeah. And then just really minor cringy thing was that at the same job, despite how bad I was at the job being a cashier, they promoted me to the customer service desk. But when you're at the customer service desk, you're the first person that people see when they walk into the store. So you have to like greet the customer. You're right to the left when people walk in. So then one day the mailman walked in and he has a package, but I don't know, like I didn't know what I was doing at this job. So when the mailman walked in, I didn't know he was a mailman. He just comes over to me and he's like behind the desk with me. And he's just like, not saying anything. And I'm like, and he's like, to this day, I don't know why he was doing that. Like, I don't know what I was supposed to do. And then I think one of the managers just happened to be walking by. And then she was like, and then walked over to him and like told him where to put stuff. I literally have no idea what that was. Like the silent communication, like I don't know what the silent communication was. But just basically the whole job, I just had no idea what I was doing the whole job. And then the final thing, the most awkward work experience, is that once I was put on the customer service desk, I was in charge of returns. So whenever people wanted to return things, I was the one that was deciding if it was returnable or not. Like, you know, if you try to return something and they're like, oh, this is past the 60 days, can't return it. Oh, you clearly used this, you can't return it. You have no tag, you have no receipt, can't return it. Literally, no matter what, no matter what people gave me at the desk, I let them return it. And that is like, that's one of like the biggest myths of retail stores, is that whenever they tell you like, you can't return this without a receipt, there's literally, I don't know if this is true for every store, but at this store, there is literally a button. Like when you are on the cash register and someone returns something, you have to press like 30 different things, go through all this stuff, credit card information, put the cash back on the credit card, do all this stuff. You have to do like 30 different steps to allow them to return it. But on the first screen, there's a button that says return without receipt. And if you just hit it, the whole thing's over. It just prints out a receipt. Here you go. And like, it literally takes like 1 second for them to return it without a receipt versus having them return it with a receipt. So I would literally let people return things, no box, no receipt, no tag, weren't even from the store. I literally just let people return anything they wanted to. I feel like I did that because if you tell people they can't return something, you have to like fight with them and then they'll fight with you. And I just wasn't trying to fight with the customers, so I just let them do what they wanted to do. Like, it's always like stereotypical of like, you want to return something and then they tell you no, then it's like a back and forth, and then they like call the manager. Like, I just didn't want that to happen. I wasn't there to fight, so I just let them return whatever they want. So guys, that was by no means all of my most awkward work experiences, but that was scratching the surface of my cringy work experiences. And I will be making my worst job ever story time and explaining in depth why that was the worst job I ever had and why I quit that job and how I quit that job. And remember, if you have the urge to quit your job and it's not the right job for you, just quit. It's not worth it. Just quit it. Don't worry about not having any money. Just quit. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and comment down below, and comment below your worst experiences at work. And also make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.